She wanted to be beautiful, sexy, and famous. However, did what she want cause her death? Who would murder this beautiful 20-year-old model? Was it a photographer? Was it her husband? Let's find out right now. Wicked Wednesday, my Cajun cuties. Yes, it's me, Anne-Marie, aka the Cajun Crime Queen from Carencro, Louisiana. Cajun born, Cajun bred, and when I die, I'll be Cajun dead. I hope after this video that you like, subscribe, and comment, and don't forget to press on the notification bell so you never miss a video from me, Anne-Marie. I hope you have a beverage. I hope you have a snuggle partner or a snuggle fur partner. Those are the best, and you're ready to hear a true crime case with yours truly. And as always, I want to know, are you drinking that water? Are y'all staying hydrated? Are y'all getting those tickers up? Remember, just a quick 20-30 minute walk, especially first thing in the morning, get those endorphins up, and you're going to have an amazing, wonderful day, I promise you. And as always, I want to thank all of you for joining me tonight on this Wicked Wednesday evening. It is a beautiful night here in Louisiana. I want all of y'all to bear with me. I have a cold right now. I'm very sick. I'm not feeling well, but I did want to give y'all another video this week. I want to tell y'all about this true crime case because I want to bring y'all as many videos as I can. And today we are going to be discussing another case that has to do with a model and a photographer. And could her husband have been involved in her murder? Today, we're going to be discussing a beautiful blonde model that was sadly taken from us at just the tender age of 20 years old. Her name was Kimberly Pandelios. Kimberly was born on November 13th, 1971 in Havana, Cuba to her parents. When Kimberly was only 8 years old in 1980, her family moved to the U.S., settling in Pennsylvania. According to Kimberly's best friend, she was a beautiful person inside and out, but sadly was bullied due to her looks. Kimberly wanted to be a beautiful person. By the time she got to high school, she had dyed her hair bleach blonde. It was big. It was beautiful. She wore the perfect makeup. And remember, this is the late 80s. This is when the big hair bands were all over MTV. You had Poison, Motley Crue, Whitesnake, Van Halen, and of course the beautiful video vixen like Tawny Katane and all the Whitesnake videos. Kimberly knew she wanted that type of success, and she was doing it. She had the big hair, the beautiful clothes, beautiful makeup. Her friend said she focused so much on her appearance that if they had to go to the mall at noon, Kimberly was still getting ready at 2 o'clock. She just loved it. She loved to look perfect. And by the time she was a senior in high school, she became a cheerleader. She was extremely popular. She started hanging around with a new group of people. She loved the way she looked and felt. After graduating from high school, all of her friends went off to college, but Kimberly stayed behind and decided that she wanted to pursue her modeling career. And around this time, she started going to Philadelphia on professional photo shoots. She wanted to enhance her portfolio. She wanted to become the model. She wanted to succeed, and she wanted success so very badly. Shortly after graduating from high school, Kimberly met, married, and had a baby with a man named Peter. Peter wanted to be a famous rock star, and Kimberly wanted to be a famous model. They shared the same dream. So November of 1991, when Kimberly was only 20 years old, her, Peter, and their baby up and moved to California. They both felt that California had more opportunities than Pennsylvania. As soon as they arrived in California, Kimberly began working as a model rather quickly. She was doing her thing, y'all. She was doing her thing. She was getting jobs left and right, booking photo shoots left and right. She was going here, going there, everywhere. A lot of times, Peter would escort her to these photo shoots because he wanted to make sure she was safe. He wanted to make sure nothing was going on at these photo shoots. He wanted to be around her all the time. However, Kimberly feels that he wanted to be there because he was jealous, he was insecure, he was controlling, and she had even said she was thinking about leaving him. Around February of 1992, Kimberly sees an ad in the paper asking for a model for this photo shoot. She calls the number calls her back and says that it's on this date. She tells Peter, her husband, that it's on a different date because she does not want him to come. On the day of February 27th, 1992, Kimberly does not come back home. When the cops come to her home, her husband Peter says that she left around 11 a.m. when the babysitter arrived. He left around 11:30 and he went somewhere. He says that she never returned home at all that day. And the cops say, well, why didn't you report her missing? He says, well, you can't report somebody missing unless they're missing for 48 hours. Really? Really? I've never heard of that in my life. I have never heard of that you have to wait 48 hours to report someone missing. Peter said he had no idea where Kimberly was, who she was with, who this photographer was, or anything. He knew nothing about the photo shoot. While the cops are speaking with Peter, they notice he's full of bruises and scratches all over his body. When they confronted him about these bruises and scratches, he said that he had left the baby with the babysitter and he drove around looking for Kimberly and wrecked his car, and that's where all the bruises and scratches come from. Weird, right? And the police say that Peter told them that he couldn't find Kimberly's day planner anywhere. Just like Linda Sobak, Kimberly had a day planner. She would write everything down, all the names of the photographers, the photo shoots, everything she had planned for that day was written in this day planner, and he had no clue where it was. He couldn't find it. The babysitter tells the cops that the photographer named Paul had called the house and said that Kimberly left her day planner behind. However, when the cops searched Kimberly's home phone records, they found no phone number for a photographer named Paul. They had nothing. There was no phone number that showed up on the records. So they were at a standstill at this point. Who was this photographer named Paul? The cops wanted to speak to him. Was he the last person that was seen with Kimberly? Or was Peter somehow involved in his wife's disappearance? No one knew, but they wanted to speak to this Paul person. All they know is that Kimberly had answered this ad in the paper a long time ago. You know, people put ads out looking for models in these newspapers, and she was looking for the paper and called him. But remember, she told her husband a different date. She told her husband it was on a Saturday. However, she told the babysitter it was on a Thursday, February 27th. And that is the day she is last seen by anyone. Where was Kimberly? The cops were at a standstill at this point. And maybe, just maybe, her husband had something to do with her disappearance. No one knew. Was her husband a suspect, or was he really searching for Kimberly? The cops had a feeling these were the remains of 20-year-old Kimberly Pandelios because these remains were located not far from where her burned car was located. But they had to wait for dental records. But not long after, dental records proved that this was indeed the remains of 20-year-old Kimberly Pandelios. The cops were stuck. They had no idea where to look, what to do, who could be a suspect, anything. They knew nothing. They still had Peter on their radar, but they couldn't prove anything. They couldn't prove that Kimberly's husband had something to do with her disappearance and murder. They kept him at an arm's length. He was still around, but they couldn't prove that he did anything to Kimberly. The case remains cold until 2.5 years later, when the body of 27-year-old Linda Sobak is found in the same forest. The cops go, wait, did Charles Rapin murder Kimberly Pandelios as well? Are we dealing with a serial killer here? Because Kimberly was a beautiful, blonde, aspiring model, just like Linda Sobak. So they thought, did Charles murder Kimberly as well, just like he had murdered Linda? They wanted to talk to Charles. Charles said he had no clue who this Kimberly person was. He never photographed her, knew nothing about her. They even looked through pictures. Remember, they have found pictures of other blonde models at Charles Rapin's house. None of the pictures were Kimberly. They had no evidence that Charles and Kimberly even knew each other. So they couldn't put Charles around Kimberly. The case remains cold for almost 12 years. Then in January of 2004, Kimberly's case is reopened. And when they reopened the case, this is something they should have done from day one. Maybe they did, I don't know. But when they reviewed the case, they decided to look at the phone numbers that Kimberly had called around that those dates of February 27th. And they find a number that she called when she saw an ad in the newspaper. And that call traced back to David Rademacher. He would tell people he was a photographer. Anyone can say they are a photographer, y'all. Anyone can claim they are a photographer, and they can put you in these beautiful magazines. You could be on the cover. You could be on billboards. Anyone can say this, just like Rodney O'Callaghan did in the 70s. He told everybody he was this famous photographer. In reality, he was a serial killer, yeah. He had murdered several people, and he would tell people he was a photographer. So the cops wanted to talk to this man, David Rademacher. Cops want to speak to this David Rademacher. They want to know, how did you know Kimberly? Did you book her for a photo shoot? Are you involved in her disappearance and murder? But when they go to locate David Rademacher, guess where he is, y'all? Guess where he is? He's in jail, yeah. He had been in jail since 1998 for an SA crime. So he was already a predator. He says he knows nothing about Kimberly. He doesn't even know who she is. The cops find out that he would place these ads in these newspapers for models, but he wasn't looking for models. He was recruiting them for prostitution. He wanted them to work for him and be prostitutes, and he would make a profit off of them. His ex contacts the police, and she tells the police that the models would leave a message. He would call the models back using phone routers to make sure his number was never traced. He would call this number, he would type in a code, and then he would call the models' numbers. So no one knew that Paul had ever called. She also said that he would never use the name David. He always used the name Paul. So everything was falling into place with the police. The police knew this was their guy, but how were they going to get him? This wasn't enough evidence. He was no photographer. He was a predator. The ex also said that one day they are driving, and he turns to his ex and he's like, I always had this fantasy to burn up and torch a car. She said all of a sudden they drive into Los Angeles National Forest where he torches a random car. She says that is when she quickly leaves the relationship. She knows something's not right with him. And the cops show the ex a picture of Kimberly's car, and the ex realizes, yes, this car looks exactly like the car that he torched. The cops ask the ex, can you work with us? Can you go to David and speak to him? She says, oh yeah, we still have a good relationship. We're still friends. The ex goes and speaks to David Rademacher, and she asks him, was the car that you torched 12 years ago the car of Kimberly Pandelios? And he nods yes. But that's all he says. That's all he says. The cops knew they had their guy. This was him. In March of 2004, the cops arrest David Rademacher and charge him with the disappearance and murder of 20-year-old Kimberly Pandelios. The trial for David Rademacher begins in January of 2006. The cops believe that he told Kimberly that he can get her on the cover of this famous automobile magazine, that he knew all these people and that she had to allow him to photograph her, that he lured Kimberly to Los Angeles National Forest, where he then hit on her. Cops believe she rejected him, and that is when he hit her with something. He struck her with something. That is why when her remains were found, her jaw was broken. The cops believe he then led her down to the creek while she was in handcuffs. And once they were down to the creek, that is when he SA'd her and brutally murdered her. In February of 2006, 42-year-old David Rademacher is found guilty and is sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The cops know he is the murderer, the killer of 20-year-old Kimberly Pandelios, and he will serve the rest of his life in jail. He is in jail, and there's no way he is getting out. I am so happy that we have another predator off of the streets. Even though it took cops 14 years to get a conviction, the family now knows exactly what happened to their beautiful 20-year-old daughter. And Kimberly's son, who was older now, had to live his whole life without his mother. This predator, this monster, this evil man took the life of a young 20-year-old mother who was just trying to make it in the world. She wanted to become a famous model. She wanted her dreams to come true. But sadly, it was all taken when she was only 20 years old by a predator. And he is exactly where he belongs, and he will rot in jail for the rest of his life. My final thought, I always give y'all my final thought. And my final thought is the same as it was yesterday. And that is, make sure y'all are always sharing your location with someone. Even if it's your best friend, even if it's with your daughter, your son, your mother, your father, share your location with at least one person. Another thing, I know a lot of y'all have these dating apps, or y'all meet people on the internet or different places, and y'all want to go on a date with them, which is awesome. You want to have fun and meet new people. Make sure you tell people who you're going with and where you're going to be, because you never know what could happen. You never know who you're going to meet. Even Uber drivers these days, I worry about everything, y'all. I am so scared to get in an Uber, and I shouldn't feel that way. But there are so many people that disappear, and there's no trace of where they are and who they were with. It is so scary. So make sure you'll always share your location with someone. Kimberly wanted to be a model. She was naive. She did not think that this person was luring her into Los Angeles National Forest to brutally essay and murder her. But it happened. Nowadays, thank goodness, there's security cameras. There's cameras everywhere, in stores, in forests, on the streets, everywhere. So people don't get away with stuff as easy as they did 30 years ago. But I want all of y'all to know that there are still predators in this world. There is still evil in this world every single day. And as you all know, I was approached by Derek Todd Lee, the South Louisiana serial killer, when I was just 18 years old in 2002. And no telling what could have happened. Thank God I never had another encounter with him, because I may not be speaking with y'all today. But when I was 18, I told that man where I worked, where I lived, where I went to school, everything, because I didn't know that he was a predator. I didn't know that when I saw him in the parking lot. I was just making conversation because we were at a gas station. Now I'm afraid to speak to anyone. And I don't want y'all to ever feel that way. I don't want y'all to be afraid to speak to people. But I'm just letting y'all know, you never know who's standing on the side of you. You never know who or what they could be. And all these models thought these were photographers, when in reality, they were predators. I hope y'all enjoyed today's video. I hope that y'all like, subscribe, and comment. And don't forget to press on that notification bell so you never miss a video from me. And as always, stay safe, always be aware of your surroundings, and always know that I'm here if you need. Thank y'all all for the love and support. And for you, I am truly grateful. I will see y'all next week with more videos. I hope y'all have a great night. Bye.